What's happening, people, and welcome back to In the End Zone UK. Thanks for listening, and this is podcast lucky number 13. In this podcast, we'll be looking back on an ever more important week in the NFL, week 12. Before we get started, let me introduce, again, as usual, the ever faithful, the big, the bad, Dave. How's it going, Dave?
Yeah, good. Bit of a hangover from last night, but we're gonna fight through it. Christmas parties never great, are they? They're always built up to it better than they are. But no, we're good to go.
Nice. I've got a hangover, but it's from work. Is that possible? Is that a thing?
Yeah, probably.
I think it is.
Drunk on work.
Drunk on work, not life. Which is definitely not. Definitely not drunk at work. Anybody listening, but certainly drunk of work. So it's Friday though. We're recording this podcast late again because of how busy we've been. But you know, it's best to get it out there. So this week's podcast, Dave, I'm calling this one "All to Play For." All to play for due to so many teams still being in contention. So many teams are in contention with the playoffs. We want to talk about this. We want to talk about it a little bit later on in a new segment, a flash segment called the playoff window. But before we go into that, we are going straight into a little bit of news. Let's talk about COVID, Dave. COVID. The restrictions have come back in the UK. Masks are mandatory. You can't do this, you can't do that. And there's whispers, there's tiny little bits of talk about lockdowns or, you know, this kind of thing. But extra vaccinations are going to be a thing, and booster jabs. A lot of people have already had them. But in the NFL, a lot of people haven't. Or apparently, they say they have, but they actually haven't. Aaron Rodgers being one. But this week, Antonio Brown, from what I've been able to see, Antonio Brown, wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, reigning Super Bowl champions, he was under investigation for having a fake COVID pass or something of the sorts. And now he's been suspended for 3 games. What's going on there?
Yeah, apparently he's bluffed his card. But just before we started this, I was reading that his solicitor or lawyer has come out and said that he is vaccinated, but rather than challenging, sort of like challenge the ruling the NFL have made, because he's injured, he's just going to take it on the chin, because he wouldn't have been playing them games anyway with his ankle. So it basically doesn't make any difference to him. But if he challenges it and they move the suspension later in the year, then it kind of bums him a little bit. So he's still saying that he's vaccinated.
Right.
And he supports the vaccination and all this good stuff. So I don't know if it's true or it's not true, but he is suspended. But he's saying that he's going to use this time to rest his ankle, and then week 16 he'll be the best he's ever been.
Yeah, what do you reckon? Do you reckon his vax card's legit, or do you reckon he's got a proper moody one?
I don't know what. Why would you? Well, I can understand why you'd bluff it, because you want to play. But why would you still continue to lie about it after they've investigated it? And if they've investigated it, what have they found has he been down Peckham Market and Del Boy sold him one, or I don't know.
He might have been. I mean, of all the players, he's more likely to have done something like that, right?
Yeah. He's got a history of being a bit of a douche.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, the suspension, like you say, doesn't make a massive difference to the Bucs, considering he's got an ankle injury. If it was to come in later in the season, though, that has ramifications for the Bucs, because I think they're a slightly different team when he's on the pitch from earlier in the season. Obviously, he's a great receiver, but he had some games where he pretty much took over, right?
Yeah, he's which is strange because they've got 2 already very good wide receivers. He just seems to make a huge difference when he's on there. He just seems like he's better than Mike Evans and Godwin when he's on the field with them. So yeah, I mean, hopefully he gets back. The Bucs winning some games, and I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the weird thing is, what's the difference? I suppose there's quite a big difference. Maybe I'm just trying to hate on Rodgers a little bit more, but is there a massive difference between faking a COVID pass and saying that you have been, and using some terminology to allude to the fact that you've been vaccinated? I guess there isn't. I suppose you're falsifying documentation, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, It probably seems worse for Rodgers because it is Rodgers and the stuff he said afterwards. Whereas Antonio Brown, he could be vaccinated. Do you know what I mean? Like he's saying he's saying that he is vaccinated, and Rodgers has basically had some person rub his temples with Vaseline to protect him from the COVID demons.
And it didn't work, did it?
No. And whereas Antonio Brown, if he is vaccinated and the COVID passport or whatever that he's shown them is dodgy but he's had the vaccine, then it is different, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. So anyway, that's a little bit of news in the NFL, and obviously a little bit of controversy surrounding COVID, which is what we all really don't love to hear, but it's worth talking about anyway, because at the minute the Bucs are absolutely on pace to be back in that Super Bowl at the end of the year. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but for now we're going to go into our beautiful segment, which is slap or sign. So in this segment, Dave, I want you to give me your first NFC slap.
NFC slap. Very, very easy for me this week. We played him.
Who's catching it?
Hurts.
Oh.
He is utter turd. And I don't think I've sat and watched a game where he's played from start to finish. I've seen the highlights on the red zone or whatever. But having watched a full game of him this week against the Giants, he's shit. He can't throw the football. I don't know how, there's no way they can think he's I would be very surprised if they don't take a quarterback in this draft or use the picks that they've got to secure, a replacement for him. I don't know who'd want to go to Philadelphia.
Yeah. Sean Watson was rumoured, right? At one point.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know if people risk. I mean, how many first round picks they've got? They've got three. Yeah, so I don't know if they package them up and try and get, go for a play on Russell Wilson maybe. Mm-hmm. But there's no way Seattle are going to want him in return. Do you know what I mean?
You can't package Jalen Hurts for love the money, can you?
No. So I don't know if they try and go somewhere else or whatever, but anyway, back to him. He was awful. He threw 3 horrendous interceptions. Mm-hmm. The only thing you can do is run with the ball. The reason that the Eagles are in the game, I mean, I'm probably going to talk about it a lot now, and then I'll talk about it as much later on when we go through the games, but the reason they were in the game is because Daniel Jones hurt his neck on the second play. So he was struggling to go through his reads because he couldn't move his neck.
Really?
And so that's why essentially it was such a close game.
Right, I didn't know that.
No, he was so at the start of the week he was ruled out for 2 or 3 games.
Right.
But he's been practicing this week, so he might be able to play.
Wow.
But for them to put 7 points up and they didn't score any points, we shut them out until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was a poor performance on offense. Just watching it, it was not a surprise to me, obviously, because we've said numerous times on the poddy that Jalen Hurts sucks. But yeah, Giants defense is good, and they made it really difficult for him. Like you say, 3 interceptions, man, and they were bad interceptions as well. He just threw the ball somewhere close to where he thought it might need to be. He is absolute shit.
He can't throw the ball, and I think obviously I watch a lot of Giants stuff and on YouTube, and the guys that were at the game were saying how bad he was, saying that he's easily the worst quarterback they've ever seen throw the ball. Wow. He's just not a good quarterback at all. He was 14 of 31, 129 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
Ridiculous. How often do you see that though? So many times does the red zone pan across the Eagles, and I fucking roll my eyes every time. And then you see the stat line, and it's beginning of the fourth quarter, Jalen Hurts 79 yards passing on 20 attempts or something, and you're how has he got 79 yards passing on 20 attempts? And then you look, and it's he's also got 79 yards rushing, but and probably fucking 3 touchdowns. But
he had 77 yards rushing in this game.
Yeah. So
and that's the only threat. But once the Giants had kind of clocked onto that, they were just leaving one safety and just playing the spine. They're getting 6-7 yards a rush because our rush defense isn't great. but we cut off that option so we couldn't run left or right, and that meant he had to throw the ball.
Yeah. Which forces mistakes, doesn't it? So
yeah. Good.
Nice. Well, Jalen Hurts gets a slap. I'm not sure if that's definitely not his first slap this year. I think I've slapped him, but every week, I think apart from one, he's been on my shortlist.
Yeah, he's an absolute.
He's terrible.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So that was your NFC slap. Let's go. Let's flip it. Give me an AFC sign.
AFC sign this week. I'm signing Tua Tagovailoa.
Wow.
Yeah, which is strange considering he's a bit of a boring quarterback. But the reason I signed him is just because he was so efficient. I was trying to find his stat line here. Oh,
yeah, so Tua Tagovailoa, or however you say it, the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, he's in his second year now, is he?
Yes, I think.
I think it's his second year, and he's shown a little bit of promise, isn't he?
He's just mega accurate with the ball, and he doesn't. I don't think he takes massive risks, but 230 yards. He only missed 4 passes the whole game.
That's efficient.
89% completion rating, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. I just think he managed the game well. They beat the woeful Panthers, who benched Cam Newton in the game. But yeah, no, I don't think I wouldn't dislike him as my quarterback, but I wouldn't particularly like him. He's not very flashy. He just kind of gets he's sort of Mac Jones. You know what I mean, both of them come from Alabama as well,
right?
And they're both just careful with the football. Don't make a lot of. Both of them, I think, last year when Tua came in, he didn't throw a touchdown for 6 or 7 games. Didn't throw an interception for 6 or 7 games. Mm-hmm. And I think it was taking a while for the defenses to work out because he's a lefty, isn't he? So he's a southpaw thrower.
Yeah.
And the same with Mac Jones. Mac Jones didn't throw an interception for 5 or 6 weeks. So I think they're careful with the ball. And maybe that's sometimes what you need, just a steady pair of hands.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean,
Drew Brees-ish.
Exactly. And that's a good comparison, actually, because you've got the Patriots who have got Mac Jones who are dead careful with the ball. You've got the Dolphins who are doing something very similar. Both of their team strengths are their defense, right? So you're playing to your strengths by not turning that ball over. I'd imagine it's probably drilled into both of them. Mac Jones, I think, because there was a rumor or there was a bit of a news story about Mac Jones having his play calling armband nicked, and they showed a picture of it because they had a picture of it from pre-game, and at the bottom of it, he'd handwritten some stuff. It must be notes or whatever. And one of the words was patience. Yeah. So that and that's how he looks, he's patient in the pocket and he doesn't just try and throw something that's not there. Tua's a little bit similar. He's probably had a few more turnovers, but he seems very similar to that. I feel like if he's not got something to that's got money, he'll just throw the ball away, or he takes a lot of sacks to her actually, but you'd rather get sacked than throw an interception or a pick six, and leave your defense the chance to fight another day. So, it's good that you picked up on that because I think that both teams operate very similarly, and it's not surprising, I guess, because I'm pretty sure some of the coaching staff are, ex-Patriot at the Dolphins. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah,
nice.
So here's my sign from the AFC.
Okay, so we've had one sign from the AFC and one slap from the NFC. Tell me who you're going to sign from the NFC.
I'm going to sign a man by the name of Rob Gronkowski.
Big Gronk.
Yeah, because he had a good game.
Yeah, he's been injured as well, hasn't he? So he came back with a bit of a flourish this week.
Yeah, 123 yards off 7 receptions.
That's monster for a tight end, isn't it?
Vintage Gronk, yeah. And I think he didn't have any touchdowns, but he surprises me because he's 6'7"?
I'm pretty sure he's touching 6'8".
And he's running routes like fucking Randy Moss, just finding gaps in the defense, and all his plays were weird plays. He averaged 17.6 yards a carry, reception.
That's mad.
And And he's just doing stuff. And I feel like that's something that I would desperately want at the Giants, is just that tight end that can just be that. I mean, like I said before, we've got Evan Ingram, we've got Kyle Rudolph. But I feel like Gronk's like a hybrid of both of them, where he's got like the athleticism of somebody who's sort of 6'5" and 220 pounds, and then the blocking ability and red zone capability of a Kyle Rudolph who's you know what I mean, a bit 260 pounds. And I don't know. Gronk.
He's just a bit of a like odd mix of everything, isn't he? Like, in the fact that he's massive, but he's fast, and he's like, he can catch absolutely anything. He's got every ball skill that you want from a tight end, and he's strong as well. When people try and tackle him, a corner can't bring him down on his own.
No, he if he'd have been healthy and played the amount of games that, I don't know, Tony Gonzalez played or something like that, he'd be destroying every tight end record.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he's the best tight end ever? About your boy Shannon.
I think game for game, I'd take Gronk over all them.
I think he might be,
because he can do everything. He can do everything, can't he?
Mm-hmm.
He's a monster in the block game. He's a monster in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
He can get your catches downfield. I think Gronk he's got the silverware as well, and
he's many Super Bowls. I bet Brady's loving it as well, though, because like, what a time to start getting Gronk back. You know, as you filter into the last sort of third of the season, start to gain some chemistry. Not that they need it, and the Bucs are just totally different with him. That's just another addition to a team that's almost unstoppable as it is.
Yeah. And what did you get him for? Like a 7th round pick or something?
I think so. I think the pick was almost like a formality.
Yeah.
I don't think the teams were like negotiating. I think it was just Gronk's going here. He'd retired at New England. Give us whatever, because we know he ain't going to come back and play. So but
so he asked Tom Brady asked Julian Edelman to go to Miami in his first season.
To go to where?
To go to
Tampa.
The Bucs, Tampa, yeah.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't go?
No, he said, no, I'm alright, mate.
Oh, fair play. I'd rather have Gronk than Julian Edelman anyway.
Yeah, I'd have them both.
The Patriots in the warmth. All right, cool. Yeah. And then we've got one more, and that is your slap in the AFC.
And this is going to another quarterback. Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
He had an absolute stinker. Threw for 93 yards. Basically threw 93 yards more than me this week. 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was about 50% completion percentage. And he was awful. And when you think that he had two running backs that ran for 240 yards, and they still got smoked by 23 points. I just don't think he didn't manage. He was poor that game.
He's been poor the last few weeks, though, hasn't he?
Yeah, and it's like the pressure of being that number 1 seed in the AFC. So the Bengals were it for a little bit, then they lost a couple of games. The Titans have been it for a couple of games. Now they've lost a couple of games. There's just nobody consistently good in the AFC, which just makes me think how much stronger the NFC is. Because Definitely. any one of the top 5 NFC teams would be the top seed in the AFC.
Yeah,
comfortably.
I mean, with Ryan Tannehill, I think a huge part to play is the Derrick Henry injury, because every team lining up against Derrick Henry is scared about him being given the ball. And so Tannehill's play action just starts to immediately work so much better.
Yeah.
As much as Hillard and Foreman, running backs for the Tennessee Titans this week, they both had plus 100 yards each, which if you add both of them together, you basically get Derrick Henry, which is fair enough. But the defense schemes differently against a no-name running back, don't they?
Of course it does, yeah.
They go, okay, cool, well, we'll line so many people up in the box, but we'll make sure that we've got coverage on the outside, just in case. Whereas against Derrick Henry, you go, we can't tackle Derrick Henry with the amount of people that we've got in the box. We have to move somebody else in, and there becomes your mismatches and your open men downfield. And so Tannehill's definitely now suffering from that, being the man that he was supposed to be in Miami at the Dolphins, and just comes crumbling down. 93 yards in a game is beyond pathetic.
Yeah, I mean, he's not got AJ Brown, he's not got Julio Jones at the minute, but
true.
You've got to do something. And yeah, okay, your 3 superstar players that you've got are out.
That is pretty tough, though, isn't it? Like,
but
to have
still,
those
for
caliber.
93 yards is just, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
Because you've still got wide receivers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Not great ones, but.
No. So, Ryan Tannehill, you are getting well deservedly slapped this week.
Yep. Biatch slapped.
And that's your slap and signs done.
Yep.
Over.
Give me your NFC slap.
My NFC slap is going to the former Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald.
Oh, okay.
Maybe controversial, but what I'm not seeing from Aaron Donald is Aaron Donald, basically. And that's why I think he needs a slap, because the Rams have lost 3 in a row. They are this superstar team with a number of what would be considered, X-factor players. Von Miller, the most recent addition, who's done very little. They've got Aaron Donald, who is former multiple Defensive Player of the Year, often in contention for the MVP as a defensive player, which is unheard of. And they've got Jalen Ramsey, they've got Matt Stafford, they've got Cooper Kupp, they've got Odell Beckham Jr. now. Like, if you were creating this team on Madden, this would be a savage team. You'd be winning every game. You'd be balling through with Donald, Miller. You'd be absolutely wiping the floor with folks, or I would anyway. But Aaron Donald's not doing anything at the minute. He's been kind of removed from games, and I don't know why. Like, his presence is there. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Aaron Donald needs a slap because he's all of a sudden become shit. But he's a leader on that defense. That defense has been turned up 3 weeks in a row now. Like, he's not getting the pressure that he needs. Maybe it's one of those things. I mean, same thing could happen in different sports where, like the Lakers at the minute, when they drop in Russell Westbrook on top of LeBron and everything else they've got, and maybe it's just not gelling. Like, you've got all the individual pieces, but they're not working together. Maybe Von Miller doesn't complement the way that Aaron Donald works, or et cetera, et cetera. But either way, Sean McVay needs to get his hands on it, because the Rams at the start of the year were looking like they were Super Bowl bound, pretty much. They destroyed the Bucs, who were their biggest contenders, basically. And then, more recently, they've lost some, they lost to the Packers, which is not a bad loss. Packers on their day can beat most teams, but I think they had 1 sack on Aaron Rodgers, and it wasn't any of the special boys. It was some random fat bloke that got hold of him. So Aaron Donald needs to book his game up. He needs to really start stepping forward, show that he's a leader on that defense again, start getting to the quarterback. I mean, there's a fair few more people that are leading stats in sacks and pressures than Aaron Donald, and that's not normal. He usually makes mincemeat out of anybody who's in his face. So that's why he's catching a slap.
Yeah, I very nearly slapped Sean McVay, to be honest with you, because the Rams have been absolutely awful. And I saw a meme the other day saying the Lions had a better record in November than the Rams because they had a draw. But
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there seems to be no. I don't know if it feels like there's no urgency with them. And yeah, they've built this superstar team now. But since they've signed Odell Beckham, I've not heard of Cooper Kupp.
Nope.
Cooper Kupp was having this season, and now is it the fact that they're trying to force the ball to Odell Beckham which isn't working, which is what they're trying to do in Cleveland, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But no, yeah. I don't know. I mean, Aaron Rodgers basically ran rings around him with a broken toe. Nearly broke fucking Jalen Ramsey's ankles running to the corner.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if they don't seem bothered because they think they're guaranteed playoffs and that's when they'll turn it on.
Yeah, that could be a thing. You've said that about the Bucs, but I think at this point you've got to try and make sure that you've definitely got there.
Yeah, especially when the Niners are playing all right, the Cardinals are still a good team.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not a guarantee in that division that 3 are going to get in because there are teams with good records, you know. So
for sure.
I don't know. It's interesting, but I mean, Darnold's definitely not been. He's definitely not been putting on the performances that we're used to with him, where he's that dominating force up front, and he should be drawing them double teams, which should give Von Miller the one-on-one with the outside. But
exactly, that's why he's getting a slap. It'd be a dangerous slap as well.
Yeah. Who are you going to sign from the NFC?
So from the NFC this week. That's a common theme with a lot of my signs, and I think that's because we just don't have one, and I constantly keep seeing these people pop up, and I think why can't we do that? But I'm signing Leonard Fournette from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This guy, I mean, he ran ragged this week. He had 4 overall touchdowns. He had 3 on the ground. And then he had a reception for 1 as well. So 4 touchdowns, 100 yards. He is a beast. You know, he is a beast. When he came out of college, he was supposed to be one of the best running backs. You know, like when the Jags took him, obviously the Jags had like such a high pick, and they took him like when the Giants took Saquon. It was that kind of a big deal. It was like, fucking hell, Leonard Fournette's coming out of the draft. He looked like he would just bulldoze everyone. Similar to Zeke Elliott and those types of players that were running backs that were pegged to just go early. And his problem was he went to the Jags. You know, simple as that. The Jags curse that's catching Trevor Lawrence right now and has caught a number of players in the past that you can't tell if they're good or not because they're in an absolutely shocking system. But Leonard Fournette, clearly, as time goes on, is showing that he is a baller. You know, he's the lead back in Tampa now, and so he should be. I don't think they should be rotating Ronald Jones in even quite as much as they are doing. And Giovanni Bernard, I mean, he's a receiving back, so fair enough, but Fournette can do that. And he's shown that he can. And he's such a big bloke, like super hard to stop, runs with aggression. And this game, where the Bucs actually struggled a little bit through the air, they just said, right, okay, we'll do something different today. We'll just load it on Fournette, and he just ran through people. And it was ironic because the tail of the tape would say that Jonathan Taylor, the running back at the Colts, should have been the superstar running back that got all the accolades. But actually, Fournette looked like he was the man on the day.
Yeah, he can be that sort of prized bell cow, can't he? When you need to just give him the ball and watch him bulldoze it. He was amazing in the playoffs. Yeah. I think in the playoffs, that's when I knew that he would then be. I feel like Ronald Jones ain't a bad running back.
No,
but he needs to. He's probably too good to just sit on the bench, so they feel like they have to rotate him in. It's probably worth trading him and then run in with Fournette. I mean, you don't trade good players, do you? So they're going to keep him there, but. Mm-hmm. He's not got. He looks like a dwarf compared to Fournette when they're stood together. He's got that breakaway speed where he can get into that second and third gear and go quickly, but he ain't got the power. Fournette's a huge power back, and he just bulldozes people, doesn't he? But then when he gets into a bit of open space, he's gone.
Yeah, he's got pace as well, and that was the thing about him when he came out of college was that this guy can actually still fly as well as being a bit of a monster. So, and as you know, our running back situation in Seattle is worse than shit. We've actually just signed all day Adrian Peterson, which actually, as exciting as it is to have like a player like Adrian Peterson in your team, which it is, you know, Adrian Peterson was actually the player the individual player that got me into NFL. So that to me is amazing, that we've got him on the squad. But he ain't going to change anything. Like, the guy is 36, 37 years old. He can probably, he's probably still got a little bit of juice, but he's a shadow of the man he was. So if the Seattle Seahawks think that we're going to get anything more out of him than we get out of, Carson, when he's not injured, or any of our other running backs, DJ Dallas or, Alex Collins, we're not. If anything, we're probably going to get less. So maybe it's something for the locker room. I don't know, but I'd much rather have Leonard Fournette.
Yeah. Well, Saquon. Yeah, you know what I mean.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? I suppose, when the player's playing well.
Yeah.
That's my sign in the NFC.
So who's your sign in the AFC?
In the AFC this week, I'm signing a Patriots player by the name of Matthew Judon. That noise, I'm assuming, means you agree with me, Dave.
100%.
He's an animal, isn't he?
But an absolute. Every time the red zone flicks on, there's just these pair of red arms that are just running and absolutely annihilating some poor bloke with a football in his hand.
Exactly.
And then he does his little celebration where he's like sniffing his hand or whatever he's doing with it. I don't know what he's doing.
I don't know. He might be doing drugs.
I hate to think what he's doing there. But yeah, I'll give you a reason and then, yeah.
Yeah, the reason is plain and simple, pretty much, as you just stated it. He is just constantly a wrecking ball on that defense. And because you can see him, because, as Dave was saying, Matthew Judon wears tight red arm sleeves, full length from the shoulder down to the wrist. And you can see him coming from a mile away because it's just like these two massive, long, huge red windmills flying towards the quarterback. And it's not even the quarterback. The guy gets tackles for loss. He stops the run game. The Ravens, I'm pretty sure John Harbaugh said that Matthew Judon was the best player on their defense at the Ravens. And then Bill Belichick said exactly the same thing. Said that Matthew Judon is by far, I think he said, the best player on the team, actually. I think he said that he thought that Judon was the best player on the Ravens team, period. And they managed to get him in free agency, I think. I don't think they even traded for him, did they? So the Ravens just decided not to pay him. And the Patriots swooped in and gave him loads of money. But he's got 11.5 sacks on the year. He's third, basically, behind TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. So Judon's doing more than Aaron Donald, definitely more than like JJ Watt and Joey Bosa. I think Nick Bosa's got 11, but this guy's he's an outside linebacker as well, so his job is not just specifically pass rush.
Yeah, he's not a defensive end, is he? He's into coverage and stuff. So
exactly, so he can kind of do everything. So that kind of player in the Seahawks, we don't have a pass rush. Period. Like, not even close. Like, I think me and you played defensive end, we'd both get on the Seahawks squad at the minute. It's that bad. Imagine having a player like Matthew Judon, who you can guarantee every game he's going to be flying at the quarterback at least 4 or 5 times. Not necessarily sacking him, but he's going to be there with his big red arms, hugging him to death.
Yeah, it's a position that we don't have either, and I think we've struggled with it. We drafted JPP and then let him go. Like them kind of play, and then you see what like Jason Pierre-Paul is still doing alongside Shaq Barrett at the Bucs. You can't afford to let these players go, and we've not recovered from that. We probably haven't had a good. I mean, the Giants have had some iconically good, like linebackers / like defensive ends with Michael Strahan, the sacks leader. We've got Lawrence Taylor, one of the greatest footballers of all time. And it's a position we still struggle at now. Like, they just can't seem to get it right. One of the people coming out the draft this year, Thibodeau, he's selected to go number 1, number 2, probably be the number 1 pick.
Yeah, I've not seen much about him, as in I've not seen any tape, but I've heard things about him.
Yeah, and it just makes you think who the teams that are going to be drafting 1, 2, and 3. Do they need that? Do you know what I mean? Or do they have to quarterbacks because it's a poor quarterback draft? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see because that might be somebody who falls into your lap. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The way the Seahawks are playing at the minute. Well, no, it ain't going to, is it? It'll fall into the Jets' lap.
Exactly.
You've got no picks.
Exactly.
That's frustrating, that is.
Every time I start to try and get a little bit of silver lining.
If you guys trade Russell Wilson, then it's a possibility, isn't it?
I mean, yeah.
You're 100% going to have a first round pick, so.
Oh, yeah. For me, without going into it in too much detail, but if that happens, it's sort of a silver lining for the Seahawks in the fact that if Russell Wilson does go, which a lot of people are saying, he's going to go, he might do. And obviously I'd be really unhappy about that. But if he does, all I've said is we will have a lot of capital to play with if he does go. A lot. Not only from a pick perspective, because it would take a lot to get him, but also the amount of money that's tied up in Russell Wilson at the moment. We've already got top 5 cap availability for next year with Russ. So if he was to go, we would be cash rich. And so we'd be able to go out and, talk to players. Like, part of me's already thought, okay, if Russ goes, who knows what happens with Deshaun Watson, but we'd have the money to pick him up. We'd have potentially the pieces to be able to trade for him, et cetera, et cetera. So, anyway.
It's a rough one, isn't it? Because I don't know. I think the best time to have traded Russ was probably last season when he had 2 years on his contract, and you could have guaranteed something. Because teams now might just wait a year. Yeah. But might do. Anywho, who are you gonna slap from the AFC?
So my final slap is going to Najee Harris. Najee Harris, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I've not slapped him this year yet, but I have definitely given him some stick. And the reason being is because, number one, he plays for the Steelers and they are shit. But actually, the more that I start to see Najee Harris play, and maybe this is a Leonard Fournette scenario where he's not in a great team, but the Steelers aren't a bad team. I think they're playing far below their capabilities, and some of the reasons for that are fucking Big Ben, big fat Roethlisberger. But the Steelers put 10 points up this week and they got battered by the Bengals 41-10. Now, Najee Harris in this game averaged 2.9 yards a carry. He's supposed to be entering the league as a superstar running back. Loads of people took him in the fantasy leagues, and actually it's paying off a little bit because the Steelers just continue to hand the ball off to him about 300 times a game and try and target him 20 times a game, which is unbelievable. But the guy keeps coming back with these types of figures constantly. It's, probably the third, fourth time I've said it on the podcast now that Najee Harris has been there or there around 2-point-something yards a carry. That is pathetic. For somebody of his size and apparent athleticism, the Steelers' offensive line is not terrible either. It's not great, but it's not terrible. It's definitely not one of the worst in the league. And 2.9 yards a carry, and actually I think he was targeted 5 times as well in the pass game for 15 yards. So yeah.
No, I get what you're saying. And I know they were behind, so they probably weren't trying to run the ball. Just look at the box score here. They were down, what's that? 10, so 31, 34-3 going into the fourth quarter. They got obliterated. And I know we're going to probably aren't going to talk about it in the games, but so that's maybe why he only got 8 carries. But even 8 carries for 23 yards, triple that. What's that? 8, 16, 24 carries. He still wouldn't have had 100 yards.
No.
They'd have had to have the ball 32 times to get 100 yards. So, I don't know. I don't particularly like him. Everyone probably knows our feelings on the Steelers right now. I think that ain't going to change till they get rid of Big Ben. Big Ben's just hung around too long, Eli Manning retired like 3 or 4 years ago. Sandy Rivers retired last year, and he's moved to a different team because the Chargers were done with him. You know, they drafted his replacement, so he went to the Colts for a year. Big Ben needs to give it up. He should have retired 2 years ago. And they could maybe then have drafted somebody, and they could have another quarterback that's got an arm to get him back into these games. But Big Ben's just not it. He's done.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've said it numerous times, and I said it at the very start of the season. I don't know whether it was a pre-season or just after the first game. I did say that the Steelers need to really quickly understand that Big Ben will be the downfall of the Pittsburgh Steelers this year, because he's terrible. Like, when he gets into like that scramble mode of just trying to make something happen, his body moves, but his legs don't. Yeah. He's all over the place trying to do something, but he doesn't actually physically move. So people sack him. They must be like, where's he trying to go?
He's like them bollards, isn't he? Do you know the speed bollards? When the combine, they have to run around the cone things, the big things that weighted, like heavy at the bottom.
Yeah, weighted
and
at the
push
bottom.
Left to right. That's what he's like.
A weeble.
Yeah, like his body goes and his legs just don't. No, I get you. He's their offensive line's to blame ultimately. They didn't. They lost pieces off that. They didn't replace them. They then drafted a running back and wonder why he can't put up Jonathan Taylor numbers. Let's think about the reason that Jonathan Taylor can put up the numbers he can. Leonard Fournette can put up the numbers he can. Who else is an absolute savage running back? Derrick Henry put up the numbers that he can.
Ezekiel Elliott, yeah.
Yeah, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. Because their offensive lines are amazing and they create humongous holes for these little rat bags to just run through. Little rat bags, they were like the same height as me and about 40 pounds heavier, of all pure muscle. These guys to run through, they haven't got that at the Steelers. And Najee Harris isn't a speed demon. He's not got the toe of Jonathan Taylor, the electricity of a Saquon Barkley or a Christian McCaffrey. He's more a Derrick Henry kind of runner. But there's only one Derrick Henry.
Exactly.
So, he's going to suffer, and I think that maybe if he went to somebody like the Colts, we'd probably be singing a different tune about him. But
true.
Because he's there, and the fact that he's partnered up with the TikTok boys, nobody likes the Steelers. Nobody.
I definitely don't.
Yeah, I mean the Steelers fans probably really like them, but. Who cares? There's no.
I'd imagine so. Although right now they probably don't. They are heading for their first losing season in a very long time.
5-5-1 is not great. Although I'll take 5-5-1 to 4-7 or whatever the Giants are at the minute.
Me too.
Or 3-8, what the Seahawks are. So the Giants have got a better record than the Seahawks.
I'd take the Steelers record right now. So, but we're not going there.
No.
Well, not yet, we're not, but we will be. And that is slap or sign. Done. Najee Harris catches the last slap of the day. And we move on. We move on to our returning segment where we talk about all of the games played last week. And actually, this game week seems like a very long one because so many games were played last Thursday for Thanksgiving. Me and Dave did a Thanksgiving special. Thanks in our pants on the last podcast. So if you've not listened to that one, go and check it out, where we gave thanks for all the things that we appreciate. However, on that night there was also some games being played, and we need to cover those. So we move into our segment, which is On the Clock. So of those games played on the cool, brisk Thanksgiving evening, the first one was the Bills taking on the Saints. Buffalo against New Orleans. This one finished the Saints 6 and the Bills 31. So, as the normal story goes, Dave, you slap Josh Allen and the next week he's good.
Wow, good. I mean, he still threw 2 interceptions, but yeah, his team got the win. And he was actually very accurate with the ball.
He threw 4 touchdowns and 260 yards. In my books, I would say, that's pretty good.
It is if you get the win.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
They play a very downfield offense, don't they? So they're all about throwing the ball. It's that sort of Kansas City offense where it's just fucking verticals going down the field. So you're going to throw some interceptions, aren't you?
Yeah.
But he one of his bounce-back games, 23 of 28 for 260 yards, 4 touchdowns.
I'm just trying to say you've got a magic hand there, Dave. That's what I'm trying to say.
That's what it is. He should be ringing me up. He should be investing in me and paying me.
Should.
I would take 1% of his salary and it would still make me happy.
Very rich man. Yeah. And all you'd have to do is slap him every fortnight.
I'll be that guy, but he's hype guy in the locker room. I'll be like, you ready to play? I'll be still looking.
And he'll be going, yes, Dave, I'm ready to play. You'll be going, are you ready to play? Yes, Dave.
He's like 6'5". I'll be looking up at him. Even though I'm 6'6", I'll be looking up at him. I'm like, you ready? He said, yeah. You sure you're ready? And when he opens his mouth, say, yeah, whack! Slap him. And he's like, now I'm ready, Dave.
Now I'm really ready, Dave.
Yeah.
And he'd go out there and throw
checks in the post.
Throw for 6 touchdowns.
740
you listen to NFL?
Yards.
Sign Dave, quick. Performance coach.
Yeah. I'm available.
But yeah, I mean, this game was, it was a blowout, wasn't it? You know, the Saints scored 6 points in the fourth quarter. They didn't score in the first 3.
No.
It says a lot about the Bills. I think, you know, the Bills are up and down, almost as up and down as the Saints are, but just not quite as extremely up and down. But the one consistent thing with the Bills has pretty much been their defense. Their defense is pretty solid. Some bad news for them recently is that Tre'Davious White, who is their best cornerback by a long shot, is now out for the season with an ACL, which a torn ACL. Sorry, we've all got ACLs, not torn ones.
He's found that he's got one.
And so that does have an effect on the Bills, I think, quite majorly. You know, he is a lockdown corner, and so when you're going against some of the better teams like Kansas City's and you Seattle Seahawks, when you're taking on like an elite receiver, you need one of those lockdown corners, and if he's not on the field, it just makes it a bit harder for the rest of the team. But they're still in a good spot. They've got great players all over the place. Fantastic safeties, great linebackers, good pass rush.
They've got a very good defense. I would say the Saints have got good defense.
They do.
No
quarterback.
No, well, that's like clearly now they've seen that. I mean, if you're them, you package Taysom Hill with Jameis Winston and go and find a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get one in, because the Saints are going to lose this window where they've got, because the defense ain't getting no younger. Like Cam Jordan and that, they're not getting any younger. So you need to sort of maximise the window you've got now and start looking at getting a quarterback in.
Definitely. So the Bills rise to 7-4 in the AFC, and the Saints fall to 5-6, losing record in the NFC. Mm-hmm. Next game that was played on Thanksgiving is the Raiders. So the Las Vegas Raiders took on the Cowboys from Dallas. America's football team. Can you believe that? They're America's team. Are they bollocks?
No, they're definitely not.
America's shitters.
Everyone hates the Cowboys. Everyone that's not a Cowboys fan hates the Cowboys.
Yeah, detest them. But anyway, they played, and the Raiders got a shock win in AT&T Stadium, the Cowboys' house. The Raiders won by 3 points, 36-33. The Raiders rise to 6-5, and the Cowboys go to 7-4. Derek Carr, nearly 400 yards passing and a tutty. And Josh Jacobs, for the first time, that he actually played reasonably, averagely, potentially towards good. I take him out of my fantasy team. And he had 87 yards and a touchdown and a few receptions. That sums my entire football season up, whether it be fantasy or Seahawks, not doing well. And Dak Prescott did everything he could, to try and get back into this, but it just was not happening. No. Did you watch this very closely, Dave, or not really?
I think I watched the first 3 quarters of this before I went to sleep. This was the last game.
Went to overtime.
Was this the last game or the second to last game?
I think it was the last game, yeah. Because I think the Lions and Bears was actually first, so I got it wrong about the Bills and Saints. But
no, it's just the way it's written on this thing. I can see it.
Yeah.
So I think this was the last game, and I watched the first I don't know, 3 quarters maybe, or maybe this was the middle game, I don't know. I watched the first 3 quarters essentially is what it is.
Yeah.
And the Raiders were blowing, like it was a blowout. The Cowboys scored 14 points in the fourth quarter to take it to overtime. So when I woke up, I was like, wow, that finished a lot closer than what I remember it being. But the Cowboys didn't look good, so they must have turned it on in the fourth quarter to get it to overtime. But yeah, they couldn't run the ball at all. And that Cedric Wilson that they've got, who's like their 4th wide receiver, I think we said it last week, he's actually pretty good.
He is good. Yeah, he comes up with a lot of big plays, and he seems to be rapid.
Yeah, so him and Michael Gallup had a good day, but I mean the Cowboys lost, and I'm very happy about it because it keeps. Yeah, it doesn't keep the NFC East open because they're still the only team I think that's got a winning record in the NFC East, but.
Still a few games to go though. That's the thing, and because it's a 17-game season instead of a 16, you've just got that extra potential. So yeah, I mean, yeah, stay quietly confident about your boys, Dave. I don't know if they can overtake the Cowboys necessarily, but the Cowboys have just looked kind of bang average recently. And yeah, the Cowboys did score 14 points in the fourth quarter, which gave them the opportunity to take it to overtime, but they just couldn't get it done, and they were beaten by a field goal. And what's the kicker's name from the Raiders?
I don't know.
I can't remember. It's
I'll tell you in a second.
I think you picked him up in fantasy, I thought.
Carlson.
That's it.
No.
Is it not Carlson?
Yeah, that's his name, yeah, but I've not got him. I've got
right, okay.
Granger name.
Yeah, I think he's the highest rated kicker in fantasy at the minute. I'm pretty sure. I think he's number 1.
Yeah? Okay.
I think so. But for all those that play fantasy out there, if Daniel Carlson's knocking about, go pick him up because his leg does bits. Okay, so that was Raiders Cowboys, and then the final game on Thanksgiving was the Bears against the Lions. We don't need to talk about this one at all. It was a stinker from start to finish. The Lions tried to give themselves an opportunity to win. They went up 7-0 in the first quarter, then gave up 13 points in the second. It was a game of a defensive. It was a game of defense, really. Andy Dalton had 317 yards and a touchdown, and Jared Goff had only 170 and 2. But it comes down to errors, and Andy Dalton threw an interception, Jared Goff didn't, and there was not much else to take away from that, really. It was just a bit of an average game. The Bears won in a low scoring 16-14, taking the Bears to 4-7. And keeping the lowly Lions at 0-10-1. So life is not looking good for the Lions. I actually saw something on Instagram, Dave, about the Lions, which was somebody had wrote down the method in which the Lions could still, in their current circumstance, make the playoffs. Did you see it? It was like, this week, the Bucs need to beat the Bengals to do this, to do that. And it was like, the Lions need to win this, the Packers need to beat the Vikings need to beat the Bucs need to, and it was like an absolutely never-ending chain of circumstances. But technically, the Lions could apparently still make the playoffs, which seems bonkers.
Yeah. So that was week 11, so they've got 6 games left, so they could finish 6-10-1.
How is that a playoff berth? Surely not.
6-10-1.
I guess it just goes on. It goes on other teams in the NFC then, is it? And how well they're doing. I guess it must mean that any team that
they'd be a wild card team, wouldn't they?
They'd have to be a wild card team, and it'd be the draw that takes them through.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, for any people out there like myself who are clinging on to the life of hope. If the Lions can still potentially make it.
I would bet my kidneys, my lungs, and my spleen that the Lions don't make the playoffs.
That's fair. I think I would also put my body on the line for the Lions not making the playoffs. So Next game on the slate was the Browns from Cleveland taking on the Ravens from Baltimore. This, as many Browns games has finished in recent weeks, 10-16. Browns 10, Ravens 16. Absolutely shocking performance from both teams. The Browns now go to 6-6. The Ravens rise to 8-3, top of the AFC or around the top. And yeah, I mean, what's going on with the Browns, Dave? They were as healthy as they could be at this point. So what's happening? This team on paper should have a Super Bowl written all over it with the players that they've got, maybe apart from the fact that it's Baker Mayfield at the helm.
Well, that's it, I think, and that's the answer to the equation, I think. He's just not that guy, is he? He's not that guy, and I think even if he's injured, like I don't really care. If you're out there playing, you need to be in especially as a quarterback, you need to have the functionality in your arms and the right mindset going in that you can win that game. But he's just not that guy. And I think that they need to bench him and go with somebody else a couple of games or a game just to see what the issue is.
I think they won a game with Case Keenum, didn't they? Because they've got Case Keenum backing him up, and Case
I think
Keenum
they're very similar players, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Baker Mayfield just doesn't seem to be. I don't think he ain't ever winning the Super Bowl. He's just not got. He's like I keep saying it. He's not that guy. He's not the bloke to do it. I just think they're wasting talent whilst. Because all they're going to do is people are just going to, like, eventually the good players will start to leave because they do want to win.
And they'll need to get paid as well.
Yeah, and the Browns will go
on a rookie.
Also, he'll need paid at the end of the season, he will. Because he was the same draft class as Saquon.
Right. I mean, I think the Browns have suffered from one thing, and that was they were so shockingly awful for so many years, decades, that when Baker Mayfield came onto the scene, it was the first time that they hadn't tanked with a pick of a quarterback. So everyone decided to be like, oh my God, we've done it. You know, this guy's throwing a few touchdowns, he's winning a few games. And I think everyone was like, Mayfield's the answer. And that's because you've been rocking with like Johnny Manziel and freaking Tyrod Taylor running around in the backfield for you. And then all of a sudden, Baker Mayfield turns up. Unfortunately, he's not the guy, is he? Like you said, he's not the guy. He's not turned out to be the Josh Allen or the Patrick Mahomes or whatever it might need to be for the Browns to be, Super Bowl bound. He is just Bob Average. He's the new Kirk Cousins, I think. Maybe even worse.
Oh, he's way worse than Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins can still get it done.
Yeah.
On a night, and he puts up. You'll see games where the Vikings will put up 35 points. When was the last time the Browns put 35 points up?
Yeah, no. Especially not through the air.
And I wouldn't even argue it's a fact. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb are better than, as a combination, are better than Dalvin Cook is on his own.
Yeah, definitely.
So the running game's there. Yeah, the Vikings have got better receivers than when they had Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry, the Vikings have got Jefferson and Thielen. I'd take Jefferson and Thielen over them two.
Yeah.
But
it's close.
It's not like it's not.
Yeah.
They're not massively different. The defenses are both good. So the
Browns defense is probably better.
Yeah. The one thing that's different is the quarterback. Mm-hmm. And Kirk Cousins he's clearly a better quarterback than Baker Mayfield. Mm-hmm. Baker Mayfield's done nothing.
Fair. Speaking of the Vikings, we go on to them, and they got dispatched in a game against the San Francisco 49ers. So the Vikings, coming off the back of a win against the Green Bay Packers, which is not easy, go into Levi Stadium, 49ers, and they come out with a big fat L on the forehead, 26 to the 49ers 34. Vikings fall to 5-6, so a losing record, the Vikings, and we've just been talking about how potentially good they are. And the Niners raised to 6-5, a winning record in the NFC West. So this one, there's not too much to talk about in it, other than the fact that both quarterbacks had a steady game. Kirk Cousins had 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jimmy G had 230 yards and a TD. Elijah Mitchell for the Niners was the talk of the day. He had 27 rushing attempts, Dave.
Yeah.
27 for 133 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's a little bit overdoing it, isn't it? 27 rushes from one individual.
I think it is. I keep commenting when all these people are putting posts on, like Adam Schefter's putting stuff on Instagram saying Christian McCaffrey's out for the season with like whatever injury he's got, or Derrick Henry's out for the season with a fucking torn whatever he's got, or broken whatever he's got. Do you ever think it might be because they're getting 30 touches every single game?
Yeah.
Derrick Henry still leads. He's not played for like 3 weeks. He still leads the NFL in touches for running backs.
Wow.
He has more rush attempts still, having not played for a month, than anybody else.
That's madness.
And they wonder why, they're not these players can't get back. I mean, Derrick Henry, this is his first season with an injury, but Christian McCaffrey tore his ACL. They've come back and they're feeding him the ball 30 times on the ground and then another 15. It's going to take its toll. He's not a big dude anyway, so I just think that the teams are a little bit unjust for these running backs. Maybe it's the idea to have 2 running backs, like the Browns have got, where you can just feed each one 15 times. Or in the Cowboys, feed them 15, 16 times each. You're getting your 32 rushes. You're probably getting 150 rushing yards. Mm-hmm. But putting it on one player, I think, is a bit extreme. And Mitchell's a rookie, I think, isn't he? So he's
young. But this is the Niners thing, isn't it? Like, how many running backs have they been through in the last 3 years?
Oh, yeah.
So many, because they do the same thing. They do this all the time. They absolutely load one running back that's got the hot streak at the moment. How many running backs they've had that have gone down injured is unbelievable over the last few years. This Mitchell guy who's had 27 rushes and 6 receptions, by the way, so that's 30 plus touches in one game. But then you've got Raheem Mostert went down with a bad injury. They had another guy, Wilson, his name was, last year, who got hot. They started loading in the ball, got injured. Before that, they had they signed I can't remember who they signed. He's now at the Chiefs, McKinney or something. I think Xavier McKinney. Yeah. They loaded him for like 2 games and just broke him, like absolutely broke him to pieces. The Niners, I don't like the way that they do that. They tend to just pile it in and just go, here you go, mate. And it's almost like a spare part, you know what I mean? Like a disposable running back. That's what it feels like they've got at the Niners. It gets the job done and it wins them individual game weeks, but then they end up going into the postseason like, we've got loads of injuries. Well, fucking no surprise that you've got loads of injuries, because all you're doing is beating to death your running backs and they've got no juice left. And same for Christian McCaffrey. And you said it weeks and weeks and weeks. When he came back from an injury, you were like, he's probably going to get another 30 this week and he'll be on the injury report. Fucking is. Done. Yeah. Game. Season. Over. Christian McCaffrey. Because coaches are greedy, basically. Yeah.
And this Mitchell, I had him in fantasy for about 8 weeks.
So I've had him as well.
Every single week, he's questionable. Every week. This week, questionable.
Yeah.
Because and he's been injured this season as well. So I don't know. I just think I want us to draft. I'm happy with Devontae Booker as a secondary backup to Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. And
just share the load. If you're going to do it, if you know you're running the ball and it's and you just have 3 or 4 yards, get Booker in the game. I want Saquon Barkley on swing passes out to left, screens, like tossers, do you know what I mean? Like trick plays where you're going to get him the ball in space and he can make, because all you're going to do by pumping him up the middle is get him injured. That's where they get rolled up on and all the injuries happen like that. And it's just frustrating to watch, I think. And these teams that are using how many, Name the season when Dalvin Cook wasn't injured for at least some of the season. I bet he's never had a season where he's never been injured.
No.
Because he's the only running back of that team and he gets hammered with the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And look, what a surprise, he's out now, Matson's back in.
Yeah. People need to listen to us, Dave. Let's get this podcast shared. NFL, pick it up. You could learn a few things. Right. Chargers. LA took on Broncos, Denver. Broncos beat the Chargers 28-13. Both teams now at 6-5 in their division. Nothing of worth to come from this game other than the fact that both of these teams have had a very steady, average season, and their results show exactly that. 6-5, both winning records, but it could be the other way around. Could be 5-6. No team here has impressed me at all. They've just done what they need to do. Won a few games, lost a few games.
Yeah, they're not going to make any big plays in the playoffs. I don't think if they get there.
No.
The Herbert's very up and down. I don't think I've seen from him yet the ability to be that guy that just can go out and win games. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When your team's down, can he throw for 300 yards here, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions? But like I say, the difference between throwing two interceptions in a win and 2 interceptions in a loss is that the loss is probably blamed on the fact you threw 2 interceptions, give the other team extra possessions.
I think you raised a good point.
The Broncos are a very steady team.
Yeah.
They're just, do you know what I mean, 129 yards for Teddy Bridgewater. And they just kind of ran the ball down the throat. How many rush attempts is that? I don't even know. What's that? 33 rush attempts?
Yeah.
And Drew Lock even came on for an interception because he's shit.
He's terrible.
No, the Chargers, I feel like they need to mature as a team, not like mature as in grow up AB style, but mature as in they're young and they just need...
Yeah.
They need a couple more years, I think.
Herbert, exactly right, I think, for what you just said. I think Herbert, he wins games when he takes that game, like when he blows the game out kind of thing, like a steady performance throughout 4 quarters. When it comes to clutch and actually saying to him, go and win this game in the 4th, don't think he's got that yet.
No, he's young, I think, and I think he's missing maybe that bit of like emotional intelligence where when it's time to not throw the ball and run the ball, it's like game management.
Game management, yeah.
Yeah, and
definitely.
I don't know if he doesn't look like he's intelligent. Do you know what I mean? Like a lot of the quarterbacks are clever and they're smart and they understand the game and stuff. I feel like he's just extremely talented.
Yeah. If he can get his brain right, it's going to take a few years, right? And then he could be an absolute weapon.
That's why sometimes it's better to have a player like, you look at like a Brady. It's different. I don't really want to use Tom Brady as an example because he's such an outlier, but he doesn't possess the physical abilities, or he didn't when he came into the league, the physical abilities where people like number 1 draft pick, you're going to be amazing. He's grinded. He watches the tape. Do you know what I mean? He knows so much more. He's got that. He's got the intelligence upstairs.
Yeah, he's got like the brain of a coach.
Yeah.
And then average physicality, whereas Herbert's got superstar physicality and the brain of a potato.
Potentially, yeah. Potentially. Yeah. He looks like a potato as well, especially.
He does look like a potato. Cool. Moving on. The Tennessee Titans, we spoke about these a little bit, so we don't need to go into depth, but the Tennessee Titans, I just lisped then. The Tennessee Titans.
The Tennessee Titans.
I mean, they could be spoken about in that manner, considering how they're playing at the minute. The Tennessee Titans have played the New England Patriots, and the Patriots, man, they are putting on a clinic recently. Patriots go to 8-4. The Titans dropped to 8-4 after a nice little run, and the Patriots demolished the Titans 36-13. I mean, Mac Jones.
They've had a good November.
2 touchdowns. God damn, Mac Jones, he's doing bits.
They've had a good November.
This guy could be the man in New England, right? He's actually looking damn good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he I don't know. He's a weirdo, isn't he? He looks like the guy who should be doing your taxes, but he's just a steady Eddie, isn't he? Steady Eddie, but he gets the job done. He's got a bit of passion. He's under Bill Belichick's wing, and I think it's starting to show.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've spoken about Mac Jones quite a bit because I think you've signed him and I've signed him in the past. So he's if he keeps doing what he's doing, he's going to make a name for himself this season. And I actually don't mind it. I actually really don't. As much as I hate the Patriots sort of franchise, I don't really dislike him at all at the moment.
Yeah, we said it's strange, isn't it? It's strange that we've gone from hating the Patriots with Tom Brady because they won everything to the fact that I actually quite like Tom Brady now he's in Tampa and it's a bit more normal. And I quite like the Patriots because they've got a young rookie quarterback and they're making it work. So maybe it's going to work out for both teams.
I think it will, and I'm okay with it. Oh, I was going to say I'm really happy about it. I'm not. I'm okay with it, which is a long way. I've moved a long way from the Patriots, from hating them for a very long time.
Yeah.
Next game, Buccaneers took on the Colts. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking on Indianapolis. This one was a tight game, really tight, and actually I think this one was lost by the Colts, or more specifically, lost by Carson Wentz, who on paper, 306 yards and 3 touchdowns, looks like he had an absolute day. But when you actually watch that game, I don't know if you saw it, Dave, but you must have. Carson Wentz for the first quarter, I was like, oh, he's not looking too bad. Or even the second quarter, I think it was. And I was like, okay, Wentz doing some bits. And then he fell apart. Like, I watched him crumble. I think I was watching it with a mate of mine, Sammy, who's not as a bigger fan as we are of NFL, but he obviously knows some stuff. And he was like, at the start of the game, he's like, oh, this Wentz guy's looking pretty decent. And I was like, he's fucking not. And he was like, yeah, no, but like they were competitive, they were doing some stuff. And I was like, this guy's playing beyond his capabilities right now, Sam. Like, this is going to stop. And lo and behold, second half comes in, the guy fell apart, man. Like, he threw 2 interceptions. I think he tried to run at a fumble that was maybe lost. It was just, and then the Colts realized, oh, wait a minute. What we do is run the ball. What we do is Jonathan Taylor, play your best player. And they managed to make Taylor come alive a little bit. And they scored a few points, like they managed to get 7 points in the fourth quarter by running. I think Taylor had every yard on one of the drives. Every single yard that was gained was Jonathan Taylor. But apart from that, the Bucs kept him wrapped up, and they won 38-31. Tom Brady doing bits, obviously, and the Buccaneers go to 8-3, and the Colts fall to a level 500 at 6-6. Anything else to take from that game?
Not really. It's typical Carson Wentz, I suppose. He has good performances, he has bad performances, his average performances, like all of them, but his good ones just don't seem to last, No. That MVP form from a couple of years ago or whatever, it's never returned, is it? He's had one season.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell you what, I bet the Eagles would kill for him back.
I bet they would right now. They could probably make that happen if they wanted.
Yeah. Probably.
Okay, next game was the Steelers. We've spoken about this one. The Steelers from Pittsburgh took on the Cincinnati Bengals. This was destruction at the Bengals' house, and the Steelers lost 41-10. Not anything to take home from this one apart from Joe Mixon. What a contrast between running backs. Joe Mixon and Najee Harris, both, you would say, have the same sort of potential, same sort of body type. Harris is a bit bigger, but Joe Mixon put up 165 yards and 28 touchdowns. Fall into that trap a little bit of being rested on a little bit too heavy. So Mixon got fed the ball 28 times. Not a lot to talk about in this one, Dave, so I'm going to skim straight past it. and the Steelers, as we mentioned earlier, go 5-5-1. That's 5 wins, 5 losses, and 1 draw. And the Bengals rise to 7-4, which is that's an achievement for the Bengals, actually. I think this year that's an achievement for them to be in plus territory going into the playoff mix. They've got every chance to make it, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. A game that I don't want to talk much about at all, so I'll just cover this one. If you don't mind, Dave. This is the Jets, who I saw a few weeks ago live in East Rutherford, New Jersey in America. They took on the Texans. So this was a game where the Jets are 3 wins and 8 losses, and the Texans are 2 wins and 9 losses. And there was really not a lot to take home from this one. The Jets won 21-14. But it was not a spectacle for the eyes whatsoever. Nobody looked like they were going to do too much. It was the return of Zach Wilson, the Jets' rookie quarterback, and he had no touchdowns. He had 145 yards and yet another interception. And Tyrod Taylor didn't do too much better either, albeit he had a couple of touchdowns thrown. And so that was Tyrod Taylor throwing for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. But he did throw an interception as well, which actually led to points on the Jets side of the ball, which then led to the win. So, struggling to find anything positive to say about the Jets. Definitely nothing positive to say about Houston. They are a team that is in absolute rebuild mode. They need to get into the off season as quickly as possible and start making big moves, because their team, man for man, roster for roster, on paper, is the worst in the NFL by a long shot. And yeah, so 1 rushing touchdown for Zach Wilson. The man ran twice for 3 yards. And then they had a nobody, somebody called Walter. Walter Mitty ran for 38 yards and a touchdown. That's that takes you through pretty much everything that you need to know about that game. And so yeah, the Jets and the Texans, which is potentially one of the worst games possible on paper, turns out to be just that. Moving forward, Panthers V Dolphins. We spoke about this when you signed Tua. The Panthers lost to the Dolphins. This was supposed to be a much more competitive game. Cam Newton's second game back. He'd had a good first game and just lost. This week, he looked like a guy that had been sat on the couch for a few weeks. The Panthers only scored 10 points. Cam Newton was benched after only scoring, he didn't score. He had 92 yards through the air, and he had a rushing touchdown as he normally does, but he only rushed for 5 yards. So he had a touchdown and then was benched. And then PJ Walker came in and had even less yards on the same amount of attempts and an interception. Cam Newton threw 2 interceptions. So Dolphins just pillaged the Panthers offense by picking them off and sacking them, and essentially making both quarterbacks life a misery. And as you mentioned, Dave, signing Tua, he had a solid day. 27 of 31. He missed 4 passes and found the receivers he needed to get the job done. And the Panthers fall to 5-7, and the Dolphins rise to 5-7. So we got a lot of competitive teams here, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, that game was like year 11 having a fight with a year 7, wasn't it? Like
yeah,
an NFL team playing a high school football team.
Definitely.
The Panthers 5-7. I mean, I think that's a generous record for them. They don't know what they're doing in the quarterback position. Sam Darnold ain't it. Is Cam it? I don't know. This is his second time there. I feel like there's so many teams that are just without a quarterback. You know?
Yeah.
And then you've got teams like the Bears that have got about 6.
Exactly, yeah.
It's a strange old league, isn't it?
It is. Moving on, away from that shitter of a game, we move into another shitter of a game, and that's the Falcons. Falcons played the Jaguars, the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this was Falcons winning a scrappy match, 21-14. The difference in this one, Cordarrelle Patterson, as you mentioned last week, Dave, without him on the pitch, they couldn't put up a single point against the Patriots last week. With him on the pitch, the guy has 108 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. And did he have a reception for a touchdown as well? No. He just had 2 on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, the guys you like to see sat on your bench in fantasy, Cordarrelle Patterson. He wasn't even meant to play.
No, so is that why you left him on the bench?
Yeah. So how he comes on and does whatever he does. But I mean, 108 yards off 16 carries. That's the kind of the workload you want from your running back, innit?
Definitely.
So yeah, I mean, Matty Ice is more like Matty Tepid Water at the minute, and he's not.
Matty Tepid Water. Matty Lukewarm.
Yeah.
Love that.
Trevor Lawrence. How I wish he was at a good team, man. Just so I could actually see if he's any good or not.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. It's just a bad game, isn't it? They're 2-9 now. Jags are now 2-9. Falcons are still 5-6. They're in the shot. They could come second in their division.
Yeah, it's madness when their team is so bad.
Yeah. So I don't know. Not a great game. It wasn't great. I didn't see many highlights of it shown on the red zone, so there can't have been a lot happening.
No, it was a dead quiet game, and the Falcons just put up 7 points first 3 quarters, and the Jags didn't basically. So fair one for the Falcons getting it done. A win is always a win, but on the exciting Richter scale, it was a -1.
It was a fat old,
a big old fart. And then the last game before our own games is the Rams. The Rams taking on the Packers.
Whams. Yeah,
the LA Whams, and they got fudge packed at Lambeau Stadium, 36-28. The Rams are on a 3-game losing streak, as we mentioned earlier. Aaron Donald did absolutely zip to try and stop Aaron Rodgers. I went into this game thinking that the Rams were going to terrorize Rodgers and do all sorts of damage, and I even predicted it on the podcast last week that they would win in a bit of a blowout, and it just did not happen. And what came to light in this game is that the Packers are a very, very good team.
Yeah, I mean that's not something we didn't already know. We said multiple times.
Yeah,
that the Packers are a good team. You can't not be a good team when you've got Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers.
True.
You know, they've got two running backs that could be starters on pretty much any team. But Aaron Jones came back in the game. Dylan put up 70 yards on 20 carries. He's just a bowling ball, and he needs some receptions as well. But yeah. Devontae Adams, 8 receptions, 100 yards. Randall Cobb, 4 receptions, 95 yards. Valdez-Scantling, 4 receptions, 50 yards. He was just throwing it willy-nilly where he could. I think he targeted Aaron Ramsey 5 times, and all 5
Jalen
times
Ramsey.
there were Jalen Ramsey, and all 5 times there were catches.
Yep.
So
not scared, is he?
No, he don't care. I think he does it on purpose sometimes, because when these superstars get in their own heads, like Ramsey as a cornerback, when people are in his head, he falls apart a little bit, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I mean,
I saw a clip. Did you see the clip of he was lined up opposite Devontae Adams, and Devontae Adams absolutely smoked him off the line so badly that Jalen Ramsey didn't continue to track him in coverage and drop back into zone. That is like, if you know football and you know how defenses work, they were in man coverage, and Devontae Adams put a little sidestep on him and burnt him so hard that Ramsey was like, fuck this.
He almost broke his back. He juked him that bad.
It was bad, wasn't it?
Yeah. He
so
just
good to see, though.
Zone.
It just shows you how good Devontae Adams is, because
he's unbelievable.
He gets separation and against anybody, no matter who he's against. The man puts up 100 yards no matter what.
Yeah. He's so good, and I think that's the difference, in a lot of these games because Aaron Rodgers trusts him so much.
Yeah.
Like, he knows where he's going to be. He knows he's going to get open. I would love to see the amount of times that Aaron Rodgers has thrown an interception whilst targeting Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
I bet it ain't that much.
Nah.
But yeah, I think the Packers got the best record in the NFC.
Packers go to 9-3.
Yeah. I mean, what the Cardinals? They're 9.
I think the Cardinals 9-3 as well.
But the Packers at the minute look like the best team in the NFC. They look like the best team in the league.
I think so.
And I think as long as you can get Aaron Rodgers had all day to throw in the pocket, and I think if you can give him that time, if their offensive line can give him that time,
he's unstoppable.
Yeah, because eventually someone's getting free,
and he'll find him with a laser.
Yeah, or he's capable of them 10-yard runs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think he's had surgery, isn't he? He's had surgery, so
they froze his toe.
Yeah.
They froze his toe before that game, apparently. Like, totally just anaesthetized it so that he couldn't feel anything. Which explains why he was able to outrun Jalen Ramsey, I suppose. Still looks like a hillbilly twat, though.
Yeah, he looks like Prison Break.
Yeah.
What's his name? John Abruzzi. He looks like John Abruzzi.
He does look like John Abruzzi.
Yeah.
He looks like he should be in Making a Murderer. You know, have you seen the documentary Making a Murderer? Yeah. He looks like he should just be sat in a rocking chair in the background, just like, I don't know. Sometimes people come to my porch and I just shoot them. And it's he definitely looks like that. And that's filmed. That was actually in Wisconsin. That whole Making a Murderer thing. So that explains quite a lot.
Doesn't surprise me because that place is full of weirdos.
Right, final 2 games. I'll talk about mine because it's gonna be quick. The Seahawks, Seattle. Season was over last week, so there was no pressure. We go into the Washington football team's stadium. You think, okay, Russ is back. His fingers had another week to heal. We've got a healthy-ish receiver core. Our offensive line sucks. We've got no running back. Surely, though, we can still beat the Washington football team. You would be absolutely incorrect. Seahawks lose to the Washington football team 15-17 in an absolute shitter of a game that it was painful for my eyeballs. My eyes actually wanted to jump out of my head and roll down the gutter. I can't believe that we didn't beat the Washington football team. As much as I have given the Seahawks a lot of stick, for not being where we need to be. We've had some excuses. There's been reasons. Injuries. Old coaches. Decrepit coaches. Fossilized coaches. But actually, we aren't a good team. If you can't beat the Washington football team with a team, I don't really know what to say. Both teams didn't play particularly well. Washington football team didn't play well. They scored 3 points, 6 points, 8 points, no points in the fourth. We had 7. We had 2. We scored 2 points. A blocked field goal ran in by the fattest man on earth. That should be worth more than 2 points. The man ran his fucking heart out. I think he's done for the season. But we had 2 points off a special teams play, and then we had 6 points in the fourth. And again, Russ throws an interception. If you can call it an interception, I suppose it is. It doesn't go on the stat line as one, but he throws an INT in the end zone when we were going for 2 points. There was just so many times where we could have won that game, and we didn't. And credit needs to go to the Washington football team for getting it done. Gibson had 111 yards on the ground. J.D. McKissick. Do you know who he is, Dave? Have you heard of J.D. McKissick? Yeah. So
I see the Washington football team every year, don't I? So
of course. Yeah. So J.D. McKissick, he's an ex-Seahawk. We had him on our roster for 2 years. We thought, fuck it, we'll get rid of him. The guy can receive out of the backfield. That's his thing. That's what he does. Yeah, 2 touchdowns on us. Literally, like, rubbing it in our fucking faces. That's how it felt, because we've got Alex Collins and DJ Dallas rushing for a combined 18 yards.
That is ridiculous. I was just looking then. I was like, where are the rushers?
Yeah.
16 yards by Russell Wilson led the team in rushing.
We had 34 rushing yards, Dave.
Oh, that is awful.
34 rushing yards, one of which Alex Collins fumbled and gave the ball back to the Washington football team. This is why every week I'm signing the fucking running back in slap or side.
Yeah.
Because we are shocking. And again, compound that with a coach who is run first.
Yeah.
It makes no
run first
sense.
and second.
Yeah, run first and second. He's a run first coach with no fucking running backs. Pete Carroll, can you please just sit on that porch on your rocker and just, I was going to say something really horrible, but just retire, mate. Retire. Your jaws must be just powder by now from chewing that amount of chewing gum on the sideline and getting beat down so many times. We've lost 8 games. I can't remember the last time we lost 8 games. I think we made the playoffs maybe one year where we were like 9 and 7. So yeah, 8 losses. The Seahawks are at 3 and 8 right now. The Washington football team are at competitive 5 and 6 in the NFC East. But our dreams, playoff hopes, potential hopes of keeping Russell Wilson, potential hopes of having a half decent team to see out the season are done. Game over. We've got no pass rush. We've got no cornerbacks. We can't run the ball. All we've got is Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf. And even DK Metcalf has been nullified in the last few weeks. I mean, he can come back from it. He's a specimen. But when that's all you've got, that's all you have to account for. So no wonder people getting locked down. Tyler Lockett goes unappreciated though, man. The guy is an absolute animal every season, almost every game. He gets 100 yards a lot. So
yeah,
only positive I can take from that is that.
Yeah, it was frustrating because I needed you really badly to beat them as well because we're chasing them down. But yeah, I was massively surprised when I saw the scoreline because I thought you were gonna dump all over them. Because Russ looked like a fairly good game, 200.
He didn't have a bad game.
250 yards, but yeah, you know what I mean. You're sprinkling glitter on a turd, aren't you? When you're trying like the 3 bits of glitter of Russ, and 2 wide receivers.
Yeah,
it's tough. It's tough times.
That's it. Game's done. So anyway, we move away from that. The Seahawks are 3 and 8, and the football team 5 and 6, and we go. Oh, excuse me, that's a little burp there. We go finally to your boys, the Giants. Take us through it, Dave.
Winning against the Eagles. I didn't think we could do it, but we did it.
Yes.
And yes, it was not an attractive game.
It really wasn't.
for the neutral, it's not an attractive game. For the bias, Dave, it was a very, very good game. I thought something was off. Like I said at the start, Daniel Jones was injured on the second play of the game and still saw the whole game out. Mm-hmm. And it's an injury essentially that after the game had finished, when he got checked out on the Monday, they said he was going to be out for a minimum of 2 weeks. That he weren't even going to train. But the guy, he's not robust, and he's been injured a couple of games every season, mainly because he doesn't know how to slide. Yeah, mm-hmm. And he doesn't know to cover up when he gets a hit. So he gets hit, and he's kind of got a breaking strain of some dry pasta. But what he has got, he's got what can I say?
Resilience.
He'll play being hurt. Like he can make a decent effort of playing being hurt.
Right.
So yeah, he's tough. Do you know what I mean? He's tough, is what he is. I think, considering he looks like a privately educated posh boy who should be a banker in some large corporation in London. He's got a bit of hustle to him, which I quite like. And he had an alright game, 200 yards, 1 touchdown. But it's not so much the game, it's more how we played the game that I liked. And the fact that Jason Garrett had gone the week before, it gave us like 4 days to try something different. Mm-hmm. And I think we played so much better. And I think this week against the Dolphins, we'll see even more. It's going to be more of a downfield offense, getting Saquon Barkley involved more in the passing game. So Fred, I've not got the stats here because I forgot to get them last week. Mm-hmm. But essentially, when Freddie Kitchens took over play calling duties with Baker Mayfield, every statistical category Baker Mayfield had doubled. So his touchdowns doubled. He threw no interceptions. The games they won doubled. His completion percentage doubled. So Freddie Kitchens is actually probably an all right play caller. So I think they've got together. They've gone through all the plays that that the Giants want to use, and got rid of all the shit they don't want to use. So he should be a fairly good offense now. But yeah, back to this game. I mean, Saquon Barkley rushed for 40 yards. We weren't trying to rush the ball, I don't think, that much. Daniel Jones had 30 yards on the ground. Kenny Golladay had 3 receptions for 50 yards. It was just, I think...
Pretty average, isn't it?
Oh, massively average. Mm-hmm. But compared to what it was the week before, this is amazing.
True.
Like, we looked like we were trying to pass the ball downfield. Like, we looked like... Nothing looked that difficult. I mean, the Eagles aren't a great team. They've got a better record than the Giants. But the positive that we've got is our defense for the last 4 or 5 games has been amazing.
Yeah,
the Eagles couldn't do anything. They rushed the ball. We shut them out for 3 quarters. They scored 7 points in the last quarter.
It's impressive.
And yeah, like you might say that Jalen Reagor dropped them 2 passes, which could have maybe got them back into the game. But that's the whole point of football. Do you know what I mean? Catching passes.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts' shit is basically what I've taken away from it, and I think we'll sweep them this season. I don't think we'll have any issue in beating them again. I think we'll beat the Washington football team when we play them again. Mm-hmm. The thing that was letting us down in the early games was the defense, and the defense has come to play now. Xavier McKinney looks like a steal at safety where we got him. We got him in the second round.
Yeah, he does look good.
He looks really good.
Yeah.
So no, I'm happy. Giants move to 4-7, which gives us an outside shot at the playoffs.
Definitely.
We just need to. What did we say? What were the Washington football team?
Washington football team are currently sat at 5-6 right now.
So they're 5-6. The Eagles are 5-7. The Giants are 4-7. We've got Miami this week, and that is a definite winnable game.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, hopefully we can start making that late push that we did last season, and rattle off some of these games and finish with we're not going to finish with a positive, a 500 record, 100% not. But as long as we're competitive, I'm happy with that.
Nice. Okay, good stuff. So that's the end of On the Clock. Finish on a high for Dave with a win and a low for me with a loss. Seattle. We are now going to go into a flash segment for the week, and that is as we get ever closer to the playoffs, the NFL schedule starts to ramp up in importance, really, more than anything. Start of the season, few games, you're finding your feet. You win one, you lose one, nobody really cares. At this point, people are playing for playoffs. People are making that final push into the last quarter of the season, where being consistent matters, and where wins are so much more important than losses. And so different to football, as in soccer, so different to basketball, where, these teams play 32 games a season in the Premier League. Basketball, God, how many times they play in the league?
82.
82 games, that's nuts. I mean, so you win a game or lose a game in those types of seasons, it's not such a big deal. In the NFL,
the NBA, half the teams in each division or each conference make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So you've got a 50% chance of getting the playoffs at the start of the season.
So that's definitely not the case in the NFL. They play 17 games this season, 16 historically, and so you break that down. Every loss matters. Every loss matters. So we're going to talk about every team very quickly and whether their chances for the playoffs are legitimate or not. And this section we're going to go into is called Who's at the Playoff Window. So who's at the playoff window, Dave? I'm going to throw teams at you, and I want you to tell me, is that playoff window open? Is it slammed shut? Has it been blown off the wall? And I want you to give me a percentage chance of making the playoffs. Okay?
Go.
Cool. So, firstly, to get it out of the way, Seattle Seahawks.
The Seattle Seahawks.
Are they making the playoffs?
The Seattle Seahawks are not going to make the playoffs. Their window is shut. They're currently on a 3-game losing streak. The competition's too strong, I think, in that division. In the NFC as a whole, the competition's too strong. But there's no way on this planet that the 4th seed in the NFC West is making the playoffs. They have a 0% chance, I think, of making it. They're 3 games back from 3rd place in that division. So I think
you're giving us a 0%.
I'm going to give you 0 chance because I don't think you get into the playoffs would rely on the other teams falling off a cliff massively. And the only team that's fallen off in your division is the Rams. The Niners are getting stronger, and the Cardinals are as strong as they've been all season.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say 0% chance.
Okay.
Window shut.
Fine. I can't argue with that. So we'll move on. Seahawks, windows closed, glued shut with 0% chance of making the playoffs. Let's stay in the same conference, and we'll just do it that way. What's the chance of the Niners making the playoffs?
The Niners have I'm going to say the Niners have we'll say 30% chance.
Yeah.
We'll give them that. Yeah. They're on a 3-game win streak and they look steady. I just think it depends on what some of the other teams do in the other divisions. They're 6-5. There's so many teams that are like 5-6 or 6-5 across the NFC. I mean, you look at the NFC South. That's 5-7, 5-7, 5-6. Mm-hmm. There's so many teams that are in that like 30 to 40% category. So the window's ajar for them to get in. That little draft. Do you know when you've shut your window but you've left a little plastic thing open on top and you can feel a draft and you can't figure where it's coming from?
That's what they are.
The Niners are one of them teams. It's a lot of them teams, and the Niners are one of them.
Yeah. Okay, like it. The Rams.
The Rams are a playoff team. It's wide open for them, obviously. The Rams and the Cardinals, I'll just say them both, but put them both in the same bracket, to be honest with you. The door's open for them. The Rams will bounce back from this. There's no way they're losing. They're going on a losing skid. The team's far too talented. They've just come up against some very good teams in the last couple of games. So I think I would say they're 70% a playoff team.
70%.
There's always a chance, isn't there? Mm. But I'd say they're a wild card team for sure.
Okie dokie. Cool. Over to the AFC, the New York Jets.
New York Jets.
New York Jets are at 3-8 currently. What's their chance of getting to the playoffs?
They've got 100% chance of being sat on the couch watching the playoffs with me and the rest of us. There's no way on this planet the Jets are making the playoffs.
The window concreted shut?
Yeah, there's not even a window. It's just a breeze block wall. They haven't got a window. Not a chance.
Jets aren't making the playoffs. 0% breeze block wall.
No shot.
Miami.
They're a 30 to 40% team. They're the same as the Niners. I think they probably need some big wins. For example, they need to beat the Giants this weekend. I've got a feeling that we could upset them. So so maybe they're more 30% than they are 40% because some of the divisions are competitive, and I don't think the AFC West might have 3 teams that get into the playoffs. The AFC East isn't going to be in that category. You've got the Bills, Patriots. I don't think the Dolphins are competitive with them at all.
Fair enough. Okay, so 30%. Okay, so Miami 30%, Buffalo,
The Bills
7-4 currently.
I'm gonna say the Bills, who have fell off a little bit. At one point, they had scored more points than like any other team, and they've conceded less points than any other team. But if you look at the Patriots now, the Patriots have more points for, and only slightly more points against. So in that division, the Patriots are on the up, not the Bills. I would say the Bills are a 70% chance of being in the playoffs. It's unlikely now they're not going to be there, but like I say, it's close. There's so many teams that are 6 and 5.
Mm-hmm. New England Patriots.
I say the Patriots on a 6-game winning streak. They're the hottest team, I think, in the NFL. Patriots I'm going to give them a 75% chance of making the playoffs. I'm only saying 75 because they've got a rookie quarterback who could hit the rookie wall and then they could spank him.
Definitely.
I'm going to say 75%.
Okay. And NFC South, New Orleans, currently at 5-7.
NFC South. Oh, the Saints are bottom of that. I'm going to say the Saints have got... Oh, the Saints have got a 50% chance. The window
50?
is slightly ajar of them making a wild card things. And I'll explain why.
I think that's generous.
But I'll explain why now, yeah?
Okay.
In the NFC South, the Saints are 5-7, the Panthers are 5-7, the Falcons are 5-6, and then you've got the Bucs that are 8-3. The Saints are a better team than the Panthers and the Falcons. So all they need to do is string together some wins, get some kind of consistency at the quarterback position, and they could sneak in, I think, to a wild card spot.
But don't you think Trevor Siemian is their now go-to quarterback? That's it. Do you think he can take him there?
I think maybe with a couple of games he probably could. I think they're messing it up by keep swapping the quarterbacks about. Just call him the starter. We now know Taysom Hill is Doggus Turdus. He needs to just go away somewhere and be locked. He needs to be locked in a cupboard that says break on 4th and 1. And only break then in that glass cabinet. Yeah.
Perfect. I like that.
But I think that the Saints they've got a better, more rounded team than the Panthers and the Falcons. So they could easily finish second in the NFC South, and sneak into a wild card. Where I would say the Panthers and the Falcons, they're more at like 25%, because I just don't think they've got what it takes to sneak in.
Okay. So you're going Carolina, 25%, Falcons, 25%.
I think Carolina, I'd probably give them like 15%. Like numbers wise, 5-7, you can say they're definitely in the running they're in the hunt for a wild card space. But we've seen them play. No, 100%.
And McCaffrey's injured, and Cam Newton looks sporadic at best.
Yeah, I think their shot would have been to have McCaffrey back, but they haven't got him, so I'd say they're at like 15%. I'd give the Falcons 17.5%. But I would say the Saints are far more likely to sneak into that spot than... They've got the better coach, they've got the better defense. The only thing, they've got the better offense. The only thing they're missing is the quarterback.
QB.
Yeah.
QB, baby. Okay, and then probably a large contrast, Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay are...
They are 100% going to the playoffs. I'd give them 100% chance of going to the playoffs.
99.9% in the playoffs. Yeah, 100. Yeah, I don't want to say 100% because if Tom Brady gets injured, then that might.
Yeah,
you don't know, do you? He tears his ACL. Who you got? Who's backing him up?
I don't know who's there.
I know. I was watching something about him the other day. It is.
Who is it?
I don't know. He was a really high draft pick from the 2011 draft, I want to say. Who is it? Google it.
Have a quick look. Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, Blaine Gabbert.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So, he was not too bad. I think he played for the Niners for a bit. He was all right.
He was drafted really high. I was watching a YouTube video about the draft class of like 2011, I think it was, and he was in it.
Okay.
I think that was the best draft class they've had since like the 80s or 70s.
Yeah. All right.
It. So yeah, I'm saying they're 99.9 because there's anything could happen. You could star players get injured and then that could be it.
Okay.
So 99.9.
AFC North, Cleveland. Browns.
The Browns are...
They're currently sat at 6-6.
Yeah, but the Browns, I would say, are... I'm going to give them a 40% chance.
Yeah.
So less than 50 because they've got the roster to be able to do it. They just need Baker Mayfield to be consistent, is what I would say. So I'm going to say, going to give them 40%.
40% for the stinky Browns. Pittsburgh, they're currently at 5-5.
20%. This will be Mike Tomlin's first losing season with the Steelers. But at 5-5, you've got to give them 5-1. That tie could be big.
Yeah, it really could. It could actually be a decider.
So I would say they've got. What did I say then? 20%.
Yeah, you said 20% for the Steelers. I think that's generous.
I'm going to say 20%.
I think they're on the way down. I think they're like trending down. Like I can't see them getting better. I'd give them 12%.
Yeah, they've not got a big percent as well.
Big Ben's shit. He ain't winning a playoff game. He ain't getting to the playoffs. That division's so competitive. Next you've got Cincinnati.
The Bengals, I would say the Bengals are, I don't know. The Bengals have got to be like 50 to 60% chance of getting in the playoffs.
Yeah, 7-4. They're looking good.
Yeah, they're a young team on the rise.
Is that window just? Is it moving open? I feel like the Bengals window.
Yeah, they're trending up. They are. They're trending up, and they've got Mixon who's starting to play well. They've got Burrow who's played well since he's come into the league. He's definitely been the quarterback that's been drafted in the last 2 or 3 years. He's been the best one. He's better than Herbert. He's better than Tua.
Yeah,
I'd rather have him than any of the quarterbacks that have been drafted in the last 3 years.
Me too.
Probably 4 years. Yeah,
he looks class, and we've said it before.
He went to a bad situation. Do you know what I mean? Like Herbert went to a good situation. Who else has been drafted? Josh Allen's got a good situation going on.
Yeah.
They went to good, better teams, and the Bengals have been turd. They've been the skid mark of the NFL for the last couple of years, along with the Browns.
Yeah. I think Burrow plays like a 4th, 5th year quarterback at the minute. Is the way he manages the game, his talent. Yeah, it's fantastic. So, and then top of that division, you've got the Baltimore Ravens at 8-3.
The Ravens are in. Oh, they're 90% in, I think.
90%.
8-3.
Yeah. Windows have been taken off the hinges just to walk straight through.
Yeah. Yeah, the windows fell out. I don't know where it's gone. It's just a hole in the wall.
Nice. There's a few teams that we don't even need to talk about. Houston. So this division's terrible. The AFC South, Jacksonville, 2-9. Houston, 2-9. Can we give them both a resounding 0%? Breeze block wall, just like the Jets. It's worse than the Jets. They're in fucking Fritzl's cellar. They are.
Yeah. They ain't no sunlight getting where they're at. They ain't making the playoffs. The Colts, I'll give the Colts. I'll give the Colts a 40% chance of getting in as well. I don't know.
No.
I don't think Carson Wentz is gonna be able to carry him.
Don't you reckon?
Not when, but you look. So there's only so many places. Yeah, they're 6-6. The Bengals, Ravens, Broncos, Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs, Bills, Patriots have all got better records than the Colts.
All they've got to do though is win the AFC South, and I think they will overtake the Titans.
I think they're too far behind.
Do you reckon 2 games?
2 games with.
Yeah. I still think they could do it. I think the Titans are on a downer.
Maybe. I'll give them a 50%.
I suppose 50%.
I'll give them 50 then.
Okay. Just trying to. I like the Colts, so
You like Jonathan Taylor. You don't like the Colts, you like Jonathan Taylor.
No, I like Jonathan Taylor. I like,
he doesn't know anybody else, see, look at him. He doesn't know anybody else.
I know I'm trying to
think at straws, people. Listen to
Darius Leonard. I like Darius Leonard.
Yeah. You thought he was white.
Leonard.
Tennessee Titans. Big Bang Theory. Big Bang?
Big Bang. They're getting a big bang down to the bottom of the playoffs. I don't think they're making it. They're 8-4 right now, but
Titans will make it. They just need AJ Brown and Julio Jones to come back, and they're going to be fine.
Yeah.
Titans are 70% playoff team.
Ooh, like it, Dave. Again, we've got some stinkers. So Detroit are 0-10 in the NFC North.
They've got 1%.
1% chance.
Yeah.
Is that because of the post that we saw on Instagram the other day?
Yeah.
Chicago are 4-7.
Not a chance.
No. 10,
no.
5, 0.
10%.
10% chance.
And they need to win it. They need to win everything going.
They do. The problem is that the
6 games.
The next team above them, Minnesota, are 5-6. So it's Chicago 4-7, Minnesota 5-6. There's a chasm between the talent on those two teams, though.
Yeah, and I don't think the Vikings have got much. I'd give the Vikings like a 30% chance of getting them.
Really?
Yeah, I know. The NFC is too competitive.
Fair play. And Green Bay?
They're in.
Yeah.
Short of, 9. I would say the Packers.
One more win and they're in the playoffs. Yeah.
Is like a 99.9%, because even if Rodgers gets injured and he's out for the rest of the season, they've only got to win what? They've got to probably win 1 game.
Yeah, to get in.
Of the last 6.
Yeah.
Last 4 games. What are they on now? So they've got 5 games left, so they would need to win 1. They go 1-4 and still finish with a 10-7 record, and that'd get you in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I almost think they're kind of 100% in, if you know what I mean.
Got you. Yeah, I would say so as well. New York Giants, bottom of the NFC East at the moment. According to projections, the Giants have got a 5.4% chance of postseason.
Yeah. So
what are you going to give them? You're on the up. You've won a few tight games. I think you're on the up.
Of our remaining games, mate, we could finish, I don't know, 7-10. I don't think that gets you in the playoffs, though. I'll give us a 20. As a generous, I'll give us a 20% chance of getting in, and I'm being turbo generous. It's only because I think we're going to beat the Eagles again. We'll sweep the Eagles. We're going to beat the Washington football team. I don't know if we can beat the Cowboys, but that would put us level with the Eagles and the Washington football team. So I think we could finish second in that division, which would mathematically give us a chance at a wild card team.
Got ya. Cool.
20% is me being generous, but
yeah, let's go with it. You can have some bias. You can have some team bias. Philadelphia.
I would give the Washington football team and the Philadelphia Eagles the same. I'd say they've got a 20%. I'd give the Eagles 20%, the same as the Giants, and I'd give the Washington football team 25%.
Okay. And then the Dallas Cowboys?
The Cowboys are 100% in.
Nice.
Because they're going to win the NFC East.
Okay. And then finally, last division. AFC West. It's the tightest division because they've all got winning records. So Kansas City at 7-4, LA Chargers 6-5, Vegas Raiders at 6-5, Denver at 6-5.
This is the NFC West from last year.
Yeah.
So the Broncos, I'm going to say, have got a 20% chance of getting in.
Okay.
Because I don't know, they're the 4th best team in that division. So they're not winning that division. And I think the 4th place team isn't getting into the playoffs.
No.
The Raiders, I'll give the Raiders and the Chargers 50% chance.
Okay.
And then the Chiefs I'll give like an 80% chance to, because they seem to have turned that corner now. They're on a 4-game winning streak.
Mm-hmm.
They seem to have just overcome whatever hurdles they had at the start of the season, the rust or whatever, and they're starting to pull apart now. So I think the Chiefs will win that, which will get them into the playoffs.
Okay. And there we go. The playoff windows, whether they be open, closed, shut, barricaded, cemented, or just be total brick walls, they've spoken. The percentages are in. Let's see what happens. And that was the playoff window. Finally, games this week, and they're happening soon because we're recording this late. I'm going to pick the 3 best games this week, or my opinion of the 3 best games this week, Dave, and I want scores on the doors, please. So, first game to look at, the Kansas City Chiefs are playing the Denver Broncos. Winner and score.
Chiefs are going to win, and they're going to win 24-10.
24-10. Okay. I would say that the Chiefs are going to score 17 points, and Broncos score 10 as well. So I just think it's going to be a lower scoring game than you do. Some of these games are not great. So I would go with Cincinnati Bengals taking on the LA Chargers.
Bengals versus the Chargers. I think this one's going to be a big scoring game, I do.
Yeah?
So I'm going to say the Bengals will win 34-31. It's going to be a shootout with many interceptions.
Okay. And I think the Chargers win. I think the Chargers win 24 to the Bengals 21.
Okay.
And then the last game to look at is a divisional. Pittsburgh taking on Baltimore.
Ugh.
Yeah.
I
think the Baltimore's are going to beat the brakes off them.
The Ravens will win, but I don't think it'll be a high-scoring game. I'm going to say 17-14. No, 17-7.
17-7.
17-7, yeah.
I think the Ravens will put up points. I reckon the Ravens win 34 to the Steelers 10.
Nice.
And that's it. That's all done. All to Play For podcast number 13 is done. We've had the playoff window, we've had the slap or sign, and we've had on the clock. Now, exciting bit of news coming for this week. In the End Zone UK is taking a little rebranding. We're going to be pushing out some new content, some new imagery, and tell us what you think. So thank you for listening, everyone. This has been In the End Zone UK.